welcome all of our fans of Epworth EVTV. It is my pleasure to introduce one of our new residents here at Epworth Villa and share her and her story with all of us here at EVTV. So let me introduce you. We'll put her up right next, and that is Joan Hanna. I'm so glad you're here, not only for the interview, but living here at Epworth Villa. I've had a little opportunity to sit with you and your husband, Gary, and you guys are just more fun. I know that your love of life shows through everything.
Well, I am pretty happy.
Well, it shows. It shows. How long? You were born in Waukene, Kansas.
No, I was really, the thing is not totally right.
Okay.
But anyway, I lived for the first 5.5 years in Denver. My dad was a welder for Laurie Field. And at a little over 5.5, and my brother was 2, my father died of a massive heart attack.
Oh, wow.
So we moved from Denver to Phillipsburg and lived with Daddy's parents.
Oh, how
and
nice.
It was wonderful. It was a very dark cloud over our life at that time, but there was a silver lining. My mother had been a teacher before she and Daddy were married, and she was able to get a teaching job in Phillipsburg. And we landed with Grandpa and Grandma and Mother teaching, and it was a good experience. So that we did have a silver lining to our dark cloud.
Yes, yes, I would think that's
true. But it was really pretty difficult to leave Denver, my friends, and to come to a little tiny town of about 3,000. And I was the tallest girl, or the tallest kid in
yes.
And I was the only one that wore glasses, and the only one that
you
didn't have a daddy. Yes.
Oh.
So I had the most wonderful teacher. And she would hold me on her lap and tell me, it's going to be okay, and reassure me and everything. And it was just at that, and looking back when I decided I wanted to be a teacher, I thought, I want to be that kind of a teacher. We have to teach the whole child.
Wow.
It's not just that important that we learn our ABCs and our 1, 2, 3s, but we need to develop the child. And I hope that I was that teacher.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think I must have been, because early in my teaching career, I was named Kansas Master Teacher.
I know. I have it in my notes.
So I felt very honored and rewarded that I was where I needed to be for all these thousands of children that I taught.
33 years.
Yes.
And so did you have children of previous students?
I did, right before I left, yes. And that was so much fun. And they all requested, they all said, we've got to have Mrs. Hanna.
Well, of course.
Anyway, it turned out to be a really good experience living with Grandpa and Grandma. Grandpa was a blacksmith, and Grandma was kind and wonderful. And of course, my mother, I think, she was just a saint. That she raised Jim and me to be wonderful adults like my grandchildren and children are.
Right. Well, I want to share with you that my belief has always been that elementary teachers need to be paid more than anybody else. And kindergarten and first grade teachers at the top of it. Yeah. Because I have teaching credentials at the backside. Yeah. I couldn't teach children that age. I couldn't do it.
It's a lot of energy. You never sit down.
Right. That and patience.
Yes. When I was named Kansas Master Teacher, Gary was filling up the car with gas at the filling station. Something was said about me, and he said, I just couldn't understand why they'd give that to a kindergarten teacher. They don't have to know much. So I very politely visited him and invited him to come to my class and see just what we do in kindergarten. And he did come, and he was very amazed, and he did agree that we should not be paid less than a high school teacher like he first thought.
Well, your level of teaching, they make or break the kids.
It sets the love of learning for life.
Yes.
It sets the love of learning for life. And I was very blessed to do what I love to do. I know the last day I drove to school before retiring, Gary said, I don't remember ever you once saying, I don't want to go to school today, or I wish I could sleep in. He said, when you came home, maybe you were a little grunchy. But
well, everybody has a right for that once in a while. But it wasn't a job for you.
No, it was a love.
Wow.
It was a love.
So you moved from Denver to
Phillipsburg.
And then?
And then I went to college at Fort Hays State, and that's where I met Gary.
You graduated from Phillipsburg?
I graduated from Phillipsburg High,
Uh-huh.
and then I went to Fort Hays State University, got my bachelor's and my master's in emphasis with early childhood and reading. And
Wow.
met Gary. Gary was out of school before I was, and but a friend of mine's brother-in-law had a boat.
Oh.
And so he invited myself and another girl and then the two guys. And Gary happened to be one of them. And so from the rest is history.
Yes.
And besides that, he had a Jaguar car.
I need to talk with him.
Yes, that was pretty impressive.
Wow. How far is Phillipsburg from Waukene?
It's about, a good hour and a half to 2 hours,
Oh, so
depending
it's not
which way.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Gary grew up in Waukene. He
Okay.
grew up on a farm, and he was an only child, and so our family's very small.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Well, I taught in Kansas, 2 different
Oh,
schools.
yeah.
So I know where all those towns are.
Uh-huh.
And Kansas small schools are kind of like Oklahoma small schools and small towns.
Right.
So
Right.
I had in my head that he was smitten with you, and he would have been had he
Oh,
met you earlier.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, we got in this boat, and this driver's just nuts, and he just kept driving real fast, and water coming over the edge. And neither one it just was ended with Gary and me in the boat. And I said, "Gary, save me, save me!" When he went to pull the plug out of the boat, I thought, "Oh my God, we're going to drown for sure."
We're
But,
sinking.
Yeah, but anyway, the rest is history. And
How much longer before you married?
well, with my father dying and my mother having to go to school, it was pretty hard. So, I just said, I am not even getting into a real serious relationship until I graduate from college. But we married this summer after I graduated.
Okay, well,
So-
then you lived up to
Yes.
what you'd wanted to do.
Right. I didn't want my children to have to go through, we did the sudden death of a
Yes.
parent.
Oh, yeah.
The other
Yeah.
one having to go.
Where was your first teaching job?
My first teaching job was in Hayes,
Oh, sure.
and I taught kindergarten at Lincoln School. I did my student teacher there. I never went through an interview. The principal comes down one day and says, "Joan, would you like to we're going to add another kindergarten teacher. Would you like to stay and be our teacher?" And I said, "Yay!"
Twitch my arm.
Yeah. And so I taught there, and it was a wonderful experience.
What were your class sizes then?
Oh, they were huge. and started out in at least anywhere from 25 to 28 students.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in the same way when I went to, we moved to Winfield then. But Gary was a wonderful husband. I called him the best kindergarten daddy there ever was. He'd go with me to school and help put up bulletin boards or cut paper, or he made a rocket when the kids, when the space people went up so we could have one room. He made a cutest TV so we could have a powwow at Thanksgiving. So he was a great kindergarten daddy. Gary's he's a very nice person.
Yes.
And his main hobby was photography.
And I specifically want to ask, did you get to go with him to Africa?
Well, no, but I didn't want to. But
Oh.
I tell you what, that's what precipitated my retirement. I thought, you know what? He was invited as one of 7 photographers to go and document the 10-year apartheid of
Yeah.
and they had a great time.
That's
and he did
phenomenal.
wonderful pictures. But when we left, a lot of schools would borrow them when they would do units in different countries. And so we just gave all of that to the Arts Council so it could continue to be used. But anyway,
wow.
I thought, he's going to travel with her without me. I better think about this. So I called Capers to see what my
Yes.
boost in pay would be if I continued teaching. And she said about $50 a month, and I thought, I'm out of here.
I'm going with him.
I wanted to retire when I was on top. I didn't want to say, "Oh my God, that Mrs. Hanna's still there," And one of my mothers said, "Oh, when we drove by the school today," she said, "That's Mrs. Hanna's school." And I thought, when I'm being known as an institution, it's time to quit. So we've been doing a lot of traveling and having a lot of wonderful We had 2 children, Mark, who lives here, and our daughter in Colorado Springs. And her husband went to the Air Force Academy, and now he's a pilot for United. So she gets to come and visit us,
good.
frequently, which is nice. And, when I had that stroke in my eye a couple months after we moved here, why, I was so thrilled we were here in Oklahoma City. Called Mark, he was right there.
He's in Yukon, right?
They live in Yukon, yes. And our grandson and our 2 little flower girls live there, and they bring us a lot of joy. So we are in a good place. This is where we want to be and where we need to be.
Well,
and
at what ages are your granddaughters?
Oh, they are 4, and they are almost 2. And Rosie, my 4-year-old, loves to come here because she likes Grandma Joan's restaurant.
Grandma Joan's restaurant. How funny is that?
Because she loves all the fruit.
Well, yeah.
But they are a joy, and our kids are wonderful. And like I say, we looked at Colorado Springs seriously, but the altitude bothered Gary, and it just wasn't a good fit for us. So we met wonderful people. We love the activities. We love the physical location of this place.
It is
close
great.
to restaurants, close to stores. And we like the Vesper services,
That
and
is
we
nice.
love the food.
Oh.
We visited one place here in Oklahoma City, and Gary is pretty quiet. He had a terrible intubation, and his vocal cords are so damaged that it's hard for him to project and for people to understand it here. But anyway, we had been visiting, met with the marketing director after lunch, and so I said, well, Gary, is there anything you'd like to say? Because he'd always wait till we get home and tell
Yes,
me.
right.
He said, yes, nobody comes here for the food. I about dropped my teeth. So we're here, one reason for Gary, the food. But it's a very good place. We've met wonderful people and good friends, and I don't think we could have landed any better.
Oh,
even
that's
though
wonderful.
sometimes my
I
heart
agree. Yeah.
is still in Kansas.
What's
We
that?
moved here on our anniversary. I have to tell you this story. That morning, Gary said, oh, I really just have a wonderful present for you. I spent more on your present this year than I've ever spent. I said, oh my God, I can't wait. Of course, tears rolling down as we were rolling down the road, I said, well, Gary, I don't like surprises. Can't you just give me a hint? And I kind of harassed him on the way down about giving me what it was. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you, I'm giving you a brand new address and a great big house. I want to kick him. So we have a lot of fun.
Oh,
we have
good.
a lot of fun.
Good. Well, life's too short not to have fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're meant to enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah. Have you picked up any activities here? Of course, you sound like you're busy all the time.
Well, we had made up our mind that we were going to be happy and that we were going to be involved. We were not going to sit in our apartment and wait for people to knock on our door. So the very first day we were here, we got out, there was something going on, and then we went down to lunch. And, yes, we always go to Vespers. I do exercises, any activity. We go to the musical things and all the special events.
Do you play a banjo?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
No, I do play the piano a little bit, enough to plink out the kindergarten songs is all.
Do your grandchildren know that you taught kindergarten?
Well, yes, because Grandma's got some kindergarten things in her room.
Oh, of course, of course. I could just go on with you and listen to your
One
stories.
of my little neighbor boys in Winfield, they lived across the street from us, and so I'd invite him over to play. And one day, and then we'd get in my red bug convertible and go over to Dairy Queen for ice cream.
Oh.
But one day they looked at me and said, Mrs. Hanna, you're our favorite playmate.
Oh, that says it all about you right there.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful. I thank you so much for sharing a little bit about you with us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's
Absolutely.
been my
When the
pleasure.
camera gets done, I want to find out more.
Okay.
This is wonderful. Thank you again.